trade, all of eBay and all of the commerce that goes on around the world. How I access large quantities of information through Google, Yahoo, and so on. And how I improve myself with education or training, or improve my health, improve my psychological framework. Here are some examples. We have worked on creating financial software depictions which are more game-like. We developed a visual interface to the Sabre travel booking system used by 1/3 of the world's travel agents. We even developed a game to help the travel agents get familiar with the new approach because they were not so familiar with graphical user interfaces. We have done user research, usability studies for Orbitz, for HP, for many companies making software. We have designed the website for the Getty Museum in Los Angeles to be more inviting to people from many different cultures. We worked on a medical system to improve the user interface on the right from the old one to make it more legible and readable. We worked with Microsoft to create a prototype application for teenagers that was shown to Bill Gates to get the okay to go ahead. We worked with Motorola on in-car navigation systems about 5 or 7 years before they were very much used in the US. We have created many learning and educational products, like this one for Cogito Learning Media to introduce students in the university or faculty to concepts like this of HIV and AIDS, or microbiology, or macroeconomics. We worked with Xerox to help their salespeople know how to get better information design in publications. We have worked on visual design of icons, colors, but also navigation schemes. We worked with Tiscali, one of the major information portals in Europe, to help them establish group identity for all of their portals. Many icons, lots of visual design, some of it wild and crazy for teenagers, ladies with pink hair, but otherwise for business applications also. So we do many kinds of services of design and training, research, heuristic evaluations, anything that a much larger company, some of our competitors, can do, but we're actually quite small. 5 to 15 people. We've been as many as 25 in 2 offices in New York City and in California, now just 1 office in Berkeley, California. So, let's look at some trends in mobile products and services. This is jumping all over the world and in all kinds of products. One thing that's come about in mobile products is the use of a lot of real-world metaphors, sometimes old-world metaphors like phonograph players, turntables, etc., to help people understand what to do with the product. Some of them, like an old-fashioned notebook with flipping pages. These metaphors help to make products more understandable, more familiar, less confusing if they are working right. That was the success of the desktop metaphor in graphical user interfaces in the 1980s. Here you can play a guitar on your phone, and pretend you're a rock star. And I believe now you can probably link multiple phones together to create bands or groups. Page turning, flipping sheets of paper, all of that is making use of things that people are familiar with to try to help them understand what to do. Newsreaders introduced a somewhat new metaphor of stories or pictures that could be flipped quickly across a tablet or a phone. This was important to be able to review many images, many pieces of information all at once. The layout of the functions and controls doesn't need to be the standard horizontal and vertical arrangement, which we've seen in many applications in the past. Here, a circular dial lets you select things for tagging photos. Speaking of photos, one of the things we can do with mobile devices, many companies have come into being to enable people to take pictures. Yes, you can do that with the camera, but you can do other interesting or fun things with the application. Some of them even make the phone look like an old-fashioned camera. You can turn regular photos into sepia or old photos instantly. You don't have to wait 50 years. You can add borders. You can change the character of the photo, and that's a kind of a new and strange thing for the idea of, and its success being bought. This was a company to create feeds of photos and variations. Another application lets you turn photographs into drawings or sketches. A kind of strange way of capturing reality. Those are just some of the many applications that have come into being to allow people to play with one of the key functions of phones or smartphones, which are being a camera. Of course, if you can take photos, you might also think to put cartoon balloons by the photo speakers, the people in the photos. We are already used to the idea of little speech balloons from comic books, from even sending messages on some applications like the iPhone. An application called Cartoonic lets you add speech balloons to photos. So your characters can deliver a message. You can even style the appearance of the balloon and also make special photographic effects. I suppose the next stage is to convert the entire user interface into a cartoon. Maybe someone has done that, but I have not seen that yet. It's certainly possible. You can buy clip art like this of buttons, which are very cartoon-like. We showed you an interface screen that we designed for Sabre that was very cartoon-like. And this was representing all the key functions of a travel booking system. All of it produced in a style which was very much like cartoons. Some new applications like Smug Mug and the company Smug Mug and its application Camera Awesome give you very advanced functions to work with, almost like the more professional applications which visual designers have been able to work with for many years, but now available sometimes even as free mobile phone applications. This is not yet available for phones, but some of you may know about Lightro's camera, which can shoot a very, very in-depth photograph so that you can focus later. And I'm assuming that some phones, mobile applications, will acquire that kind of phone. Some of you may know about gigapixel cameras. They are not yet suitable for mobile phones because the size of the camera is something like the size of 2 microwave ovens, very big. But they take 10 gigapixels per image using a circular array of these small cameras, so that you are able to enlarge from a single photo many, many, many details and compose multiple photos based on this one single panorama. I think the first one was only black and white. I think color is coming this summer, and they expect to have 50 gigapixel photos either by the end of the year or next year. Of course, all of the fun and change that's added to photography can also be added to videography. And there are a number of applications which provide the experience of taking old-fashioned movies, even with addition of all the vertical stripes of badly adjusted projectors that maybe some of you would remember from your childhood or many, many decades in the past. Many phones have tried to imitate or surpass the success of the iPhone. Samsung, HTC, and Microsoft, among others, have certainly created some strong competitors, but in the minds of many people, Apple still leads the way. One interesting change in mobile, tablet, or phone user interfaces is the appearance of these tiles or large areas which contain convenient groupings of information, of functions, and data. Even the RIM BlackBerry joined the use of large tiles like this, which have large typography, large appealing images, some key information displayed about temperature or date or time. For me, it is quite interesting that Windows and its designers have introduced or really brought back an approach to design that was very well known and very much used in corporate America and also some personal communications, based on Swiss-German graphic design from the 1950s and 60s. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but this is a functional design style that has not seen so much use, to my mind, unfortunately. Tablets, in the past, the iPad or some other offering, as they try to figure out mobile strategies for introducing applications that can work across the tablets. Google, Windows, and Samsung are trying to beat Apple. Microsoft Surface is certainly a very interesting offering. Google, as usual, if it wanted to, it could give away tablets. They don't care. As long as they can get you to be a customer and eventually hook you on other things. I don't know how popular QR codes are here in Israel. Coming. Very popular in Japan and South Korea. They are growing in use in the US, although recently I saw an article that questioned the value of them if customers can only get to corporate websites and don't get any good information when they view a QR code and go immediately to some specific information. By the way, this image is a QR code which was made on a large area of land so that airplanes with passengers, when you fly over, you can take a picture of the QR code and get information about that area of land.
Assuming your phone is in airplane mode.
Yeah, oh yeah. And this one is, oops, I'm sorry. This one is, you can send away your genetic testing information, and you would get back this large QR code which you could put on your wall as a work of art, but it actually would tell you all about your DNA and your family history, medical history. Many companies want to figure out how to take advantage of social networks, private information, using social media of blogs, podcasting, and so on, the wisdom of the crowds, all of what has taken over the general public, but to bring it inside of corporations where they can better control the privacy and access to data. I can only say that most of the companies that we interact with are all trying to solve this general problem with more or less success. 3D imagery has been introduced in phones in Japan, maybe now in the US. A next big thing may be data-driven virtual or augmented reality, in which objects can be placed and displayed in some kind of artificial space. Another big thing in applications is being able to do face recognition, tag your friends, and even add that to augmented reality. Many of you, I'm sure, have seen Google's advertisements for Google glasses that will be available at some point, but they're not the only ones producing head-mounted portable displays. These other companies also offer something like them with differing costs between $600 or $13,000. My personal feeling is that almost all of these devices will eventually disappear to be replaced by something very stylish that we're all wearing, so that while I'm talking to you, I can also be reading my email down below, and you won't be able to see that, but I'll have a little pocket surface here in which I can be typing email responses to questions while I also look at a scene. Another big thing yet to come for computers and certainly mobile devices is mind control or mental control or interaction without keyboards, without mice, without voice, simply by thinking that the cursor should move from here to here, it will move. These have been tested. It's been shown to work, although many of these are not very fashionable. I doubt if people would want to wear some of these most of the time. Many awesome, crazy, wonderful new applications will come about that will enable us to experience things in other spaces, that can give us a mixture of both physical and digital worlds. One realm of development will be medical applications that can monitor our health. There have been wrist cuffs like this that can show blood pressure and other vital signs. I'll show you in a few minutes this concept design for a medical application that can improve health. Another interest that people have is in energy conservation and sustainability. That also is an area for development, which we will see, I believe, with mobile applications. Here are some other trends, and I'll show you just a few examples until we run out of time. People are experimenting with stretchable screens, transparent screens, shared screens. Some mobile phones come already equipped with Facebook buttons and other immediate access to social networks. Social network services are getting lots of money from Silicon Valley and elsewhere to develop these. Mobile-based transactions will continue to develop. There are some very popular ones now. You find them more and more being used by small business people to carry out transactions. I don't know if any of you remember that Samsung introduced a smartwatch in 2002, only in Korea. People have been trying to do it. Microsoft introduced its smartwatch, which sort of failed. We actually worked on a project for the smartwatch back in 2004 or 5. But Sony has brought out a rather nice design, again, that can connect to your phone, can connect to the internet, and there are other manufacturers also that are creating such mobile products. Many large companies are interested in mobile banking because of the convenience for people, of course, concerned about privacy and security, but those are being developed. Some manufacturers are developing not only the applications but content to go with the applications. So HTC added a video service to its Sensation 4G phone. I mentioned augmented reality earlier. Some applications for phones are able to create images and merge them with whatever the camera sees on the phone. So if you went outside and pointed your camera to one of the tall buildings here in this area, you might see a giant monster crawling around the building, because all of the graphics know how to draw the monster and how to place it on the geography or architecture that the camera is seeing, merging a computer graphics image with a real world view. Mobile devices have experimented with many ways to dock themselves with PCs, to interrelate in what they show, how they charge, and how they're stored. Nokia has filed a patent for tattoos that you can put on your body so that you can receive text message alerts on your tattoo. If your girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse, parent wants to reach you, they just send a message to the tattoo and it vibrates and you know, uh-oh, I better go home. Or whatever the meaning of the message might be.
How do you charge them?
I don't know.
Yeah, take it back to the store, you don't pay for it.
I mentioned before that there are all these different areas of user experience space in which these applications are coming about, and they are all related to these 6 general areas that I talked about. I'll show you a few more, and then maybe we'll take time for some questions. mobile phones have tried many complex mechanical manipulations of the objects in order to have keyboards slide out or other things appear. I want to point out that the Japanese have a long history of manipulating three-dimensional objects to transform them from one thing into another. You know about the Transformers from the comics and movies. Actually, they've been doing that kind of manipulation in sculpture and in small utility and household objects for many decades. And we may see some new creative breakthrough coming, say, from the Japanese. How many screens does your phone have? Only one? People have been experimenting in Korea, that I know of, since 2005 with double screen phones, one that folds out. And now Kyocera has a screen for 2 views of one application or 2 views of 2 applications. Here's a Sony tablet with 2 screens that in some ways takes us back to Nokia's 9000 communicator. I don't know if you are familiar with that device. It was introduced in the late 1990s by Nokia, who thought this was the perfect clamshell design with a physical keyboard down here and a horizontal screen on the other half. Here, both are touch-sensitive screens. Here's another example from Toshiba. Whether this becomes widely used remains to be seen. People have experimented with rollout or flexible screens, sliding formats, creating special access for tourism events as content. I mentioned that some companies are much more interested in seniors and healthcare. Samsung has done a lot of development of phones for people with hearing difficulty. NTT Docomo and Samsung creating services and products that meet the needs of seniors in terms of ease of hearing, ease of reading the messages, emergency alerts for family and doctors and so on. Some phones have tried to be more successful as game devices by adding joysticks. Have any of you ever seen an aroma phone? This is a, I think, I can't remember if this was commercial or just a prototype from Sony Ericsson, but basically you could have these little sheets or chips that you could insert in the phone so that the people who are participating can send aromas to each other. If you want to send a flower message, your phone will make a nice perfume aroma of flowers. You could imagine sending other kinds of smells. Actually, I saw already in 2005 that some researchers were creating a kind of yoke or a thing to put around the neck. And here there were little bottles of different chemicals to make smells. And they would open or close by computer control depending on what smell the user needed to smell. We are have strong reactions to smell. They spring memories for us. People have written books and poems and about this for many, many centuries. The Army, the military in the US was using this device to make games for training much more effective, because people could smell the smells of gunpowder and battle, of cities, and that made the experience more real for the participants. Their studies showed that. And when the experience was more real, people would learn the information much better. So they were using the sense of smell. OLED displays mean that you can have any kind of easy layout of controls, but as you well know, you lose your sense of touch unless the screen can vibrate when you are in a correct zone for pressing a button. Here's a game which combines a photo image of yourself from your own phone as you try to catch things on the screen with your mouth and eat them. The phone will recognize that your mouth is in the right place, and your real-time image is interacting with a kind of video game play. Here is another Samsung example of creating health-oriented applications so that with sensors people can keep track of their blood pressure, salt, skin status, hydration levels, and so on to avoid problems. This is a very unusual device, a mobile device. It's a phone that you can hear by sticking your finger in your ear and using bone conduction. Can you imagine you're using that kind of phone? I am especially surprised that it was introduced in Japan, because people tend to want to be very clean in Japan, and I can't imagine that anyone in Japan would want to stick their finger in their ear in order to hear a telephone conversation. I have some more examples, but we've sort of run out of time. So let's take a few minutes to see if you have any questions or comments about some of these trends, as for example, medical, sustainability, double screen technology, and so on. Should I look? Okay.
So, from the presentation, there are all kind of ways to consume data. So, from your experience, do you see ourselves going to a new direction of data consumption? Because currently, what we do kind of use basic senses of seeing, typing, doing very, very basic things with even with the iPhone, most advanced devices currently available in the market. There's no special or advanced UI approaches or user experience approaches.
What are you speaking about? In fact, information visualization?
Yes.
Sadly, that doesn't make much progress, I would say. I myself think it's one of the most valuable or important aspects of interaction design or user interface design, user experience design. We design concepts for using fuzzy logic. Do you know what fuzzy logic is? To gather together information, to be able to allow a person to see a general trend based on fuzzy characteristics, instead of not very careful statistical analysis, but the way people normally think, with kind of, you know, I'd like to buy shoes that are not too expensive. You don't have an exact number in mind usually when you say that. Maybe some people do, but usually not. If you were to rank all the cities of Israel in which to live, which is the best, you might have 7 categories, like low crime, good education, good public services, access to transportation, low-cost homes, and several other things. And you can imagine seeing a kind of display to let you decide where to live or where to look for a job. The creation of those kind of information displays that allow people to make smarter decisions faster. Unfortunately, not enough corporate money or developer money is spent in thinking those things out. So that you still have Google producing text displays of stuff that are too much to read. I myself feel that you've hit on a very important and much needed trend, but one that is sadly not a source of venture capital interest, or no one has sold people yet enough on this. Okay, good, we can have Google glasses, but what are we seeing in those Google glasses that can actually tap into all the data that might be displayed? There are some innovations like Ben Schneiderman's or University of Maryland's tree maps, for example, and other research projects that have gone on in information visualization. But since the interactive spreadsheet, what have we got? Not much.
This is why I'm targeting, because it's really interesting that there's no real progress, or maybe there's not enough I don't know, money invested in it because didn't find the right cow to milk, or I don't know.
I don't know all the business reasons why that doesn't happen, but you would think that Apple or Google would spend some time to think out this new approach. Maybe they are. Maybe they will spring something on us one day. But not much has happened. And we don't even hear about secret things happening. But there are various attempts to create innovative information visualization displays or knowledge displays. Not only information, but to give you an action plan for what to do with that information. That is also what is often missing in a kind of executive information display. And we would all like to have such executive information displays. We would be better off. We would be less confused. We could be more productive, be more effective in our work or in our play or in our interactions with people. Unfortunately, that has not progressed a great deal. Thank you for pointing out a very glaring absence. Yes?
You mentioned before Microsoft doing metro style. Do you have any kind of opinion about maybe this risk that they're taking?
The risk?
Yeah, maybe. Some people say it's a risk, some people say it's going to be a success.
Well, I think it was risky.
Was
I think it's an attempt to brand a new style or a different style to distinguish themselves as innovators. They've had trouble doing that recently. But I must say, I'm impressed. From what I've seen, little I've seen of it,